self-made 4x4 or off-road vehicle money can buy on the Kenyan market currently, yeah? So Kenya is full of adventure, and one of these weekends you might want to go driving up Lake Ellis, and you want a vehicle that won't leave you stranded. It will make it up reliably, of course, yeah, and you'll get back home safely, yeah. So currently there are lots and lots of options on the Kenyan market. So someone may tell you to go for the good old Defender 110, that is the Land Rover Defender 110. Someone might tell you to get the new Suzuki Jimny, which is of course a good off-road and a tiny and fuel economical, yeah? So friendly on the pocket car, yeah. And someone might advise you to go for an old Pajero or even the Fortuner. So options are there, yeah. So here are 5 factors to look out for when shopping for a good off-road vehicle, an off-road SUV, an off-road pickup truck, just a good off-road rig on the Kenyan market currently. Yeah? Number 1 is that the vehicle should come with a proper 4x4 system. So what do we mean by a proper 4x4 system? This is a vehicle that comes with a selectable 4 high, 4 low, and 2 high on the transfer case, yeah, which means you have the freedom to select between the driving modes. That is, when need be, you can choose between 4 high, 4 low, and 2 high, yeah, that is on road driving. So it should not be the kind that comes with the automatic selection of the off-road driving modes. It should give you the freedom to select when need be the different modes, that is the 2 high, 4 high, and 4 low, yeah. So a good off-road system should also come with locking diffs, which are very important. That is both front and rear locking diffs. Even if you lack the front, make sure the vehicle has the rear locking diff, yeah. So if by any chance you get one tire in the air, so in the normal case of an open differential, if one tire loses traction, all the power is sent to that tire, which basically means you are stuck forever. So if you have a vehicle with a locking diff and you lock the diffs, all the wheels get equal share of power, which means that 50% is sent to the front wheel and 50% is sent to the rear wheels, yeah. And each wheel will then receive like 25% of the power from the engine. So even if you get one of your tires in the air, you won't be stuck, and you will also manage to get out of that sticky situation, and you will not end up spending the night in the bush, yeah. So a good example of such vehicles, number 1 is the Land Cruiser 70 series, which of course has the manual selector of the driving modes, yeah. It is still like the traditional and hardcore 4x4 system, yeah. Another good vehicle on that is the Land Rover Defender 110. Another good vehicle is the Toyota Hilux, that is the 4-wheel drive option. Yeah, any vehicle that is 4-wheel drive and has the selectable 2 high, 4 high, and 4 low is good enough for off-roading. Yeah, that is the 4x4 system. You can even consider a car like that is on a budget. The Suzuki Jimny, the new gen, of course, has a good and proper 4x4 system. So that is a good option for guys who are into off-roading. Factor number 2 to consider is that the engine sitting between those 2 front wheels should be as bulletproof as possible. And what do we mean by bulletproof engines? These are engines that will easily clock like 1 million kilometers on the dash without requiring a major engine rebuild or overhaul, yeah. So, and what are the kind of vehicles that come with such engines and they are available on the Kenyan market? So number 1 on the list is of course the Land Cruiser 70 series. And the engine I'm talking about is the 1HZ. So the 1HZ is like the king of engine reliability. So that's why you'll find like all the tour vehicles are of course the 1HZ, and if you are in need of much power, you can get the Land Cruiser 70 series with the 1VD, that is the V8 turbo diesel engine option, or even you can get one with the 1HD, that is the turbo version of the 1HZ, because the 1HZ was the NA, yeah. So other vehicles on that list with bulletproof engines, you can get the Fortuner. So, and get the one with the KD family of engines. So of course those engines are relatively new but quite reliable and quite durable. So they easily clock like 500,000 kilometers on the dash without a major rebuild, yeah. So such engines, so try to get a vehicle that has an engine with a solid reputation in terms of reliability. Factor number 3 to consider is that the vehicle should come with both front and rear solid axles, and this for guys who are going into serious off-roading, not like the mud off-roading. If you are doing mud off-roading, then you can just get a vehicle just like the rear solid axle. But if you are gonna go into serious off-roading, try and get a vehicle with both the solid front and rear axles, yeah. And reason being, in hardcore off-roading, you might jump that vehicle, you might go in hard on a jump or a drop, yeah. And what happens if you have like the front independent suspension? Of course, you have the CV joints which don't entertain like serious drops or serious jumps, yeah. So what happens is that you might end up stranded in the bush. So to avoid that, just get a vehicle with a solid front axle and a solid rear axle. And of course, the solid rear axle is very important if you are gonna do some towing, yeah. In the list of good off-roaders that come with a solid front axle, we have the Land Cruiser 70 series, of course. We have the Defender 110 up to the Defender Puma, and not this new Defender that is not an off-road car, that is like a soft off-roader. And of course, you have the Jeep Wrangler, which comes with a very proper solid front axle, yeah, and a capable one. So factor number 4 to consider is that your vehicle should be easy to fix and easy to maintain, which means that you can conduct like minor fixes on your own while you're in the bush. That will allow you to get to the nearest like civilization or town where you can be able to get like help from a professional mechanic, yeah. And this is a vehicle that should be understood like by the bush mechanics, yeah, where you can find, this is a vehicle that you can find a mechanic from any town in this part of the country, yeah. So don't go off-roading, that is serious off-roading with like the modern vehicles, that is like the modern Defender, Range Rover and the rest, where nobody can fix that car in those remote towns, and you'll have to like take that car on a flatbed to the dealership, yeah. So with that kind of car, you'll end up stranded and really stranded, and where your safety is like questionable deep in the bush instead of having like an off-road adventure. Such cars include the Land Cruiser 70 series, of course. This is like the benchmark for anyone looking for a serious off-roader. Second would be like any Toyota 4x4, of course, they are everywhere. So you'll easily find like a mechanic in any part of this country, even in the remotest of towns, yeah. So number 2 will be going for a Land Rover Defender 110, but the Defender 110 is quite expensive to maintain, so you have to be aware of that, or you'll start saying that it is so unreliable. So another good option will be maybe like the old versions of the Pajero. Yeah, such cars that come with like the less complicated engines, yeah, just go for those cars if you are looking for an off-road rig that maybe you can use it as it is, or you can upgrade it with mods to have like a proper off-road rig. The last factor to consider is the availability of spare parts, yeah. So you should get a vehicle that you can find the spare parts from any like major town in any part of this big country, which means that even if you don't find the spare part in the like the small village towns, can find the spare part in like the major towns, which means you won't end up so stranded, because like you can get to the closest like major town, get the part and replace it, and get yourself out of the bush, and you don't have to wait for days before a part can be brought from like Nairobi up to like Moyale. So, and what are these cars where you can find parts in any part of this country? Of course, the only vehicle that I can assure you will find like the spare parts in any part of Kenya is any 4x4 from Toyota, and that is like the common 4x4, that is the Hilux, the Fortuner and the Land Cruiser 70 series, of course, yeah. The rest it's a gamble, yeah. So with that, you should be able to find your next good off-road rig and enjoy the beautiful scenery of this amazing country. So thanks for watching and keep on subscribing, yeah. So thanks.